This Barraskewda is so fast, it breaks the speed formula and can literally outrun Trick Room. That's like half as fast as I am when trying to outrun Responsibility. The speed stat in Pokemon is massively important for a ton of reasons. It determines which Pokemon attacks first, the order in which abilities activate, and in early generations it would even determine if you got a critical hit. Yeah, that means you could literally boost your speed until you had like a 95% chance of critting. For the most part, speed and move order is calculated in a pretty simple way. At its core, whichever Pokemon has the highest speed stat moves first on any given turn. A popular strategy in Pokemon VGC is using the move Trick Room, which essentially just inverts the speed stats of all the Pokemon on the field. It's okay, Slowpoke, you take your time. On the surface, Trick Room is pretty simple. Use it and now your slow Pokemon get to move before your opponent's fast Pokemon. And that would be the case if Game Freak went back and cleaned up their spaghetti code. In reality, Trick Room actually has some weird math behind its function, which allows Pokemon with speed stats above 1,809 to still move first, and I'll explain why. Speed is calculated by starting with the obvious, the subscribe button. Okay, so we start with the speed stat of the considered Pokemon. We then apply any modifiers from things like stat boosts or speed boosting items or status We then apply any modifiers from things like stat boosts or speed boosting items or status conditions. Here, if the Pokemon's speed exceeds 10,000, it's rounded back down to 10,000. Then if Trick Room is active, the speed is then converted to 10,000 minus the calculated speed. And lastly, if the value is greater than 8,191, we subtract 8,192 from that value. Now Trick Room works nicely if the speed stats aren't too high. An Arceus with a speed stat of 120 would become 1,688 in Trick Room, and a Bidoof with a speed of 31 would become 1,777 in Trick Room. Therefore, in Trick Room, Bidoof would outspeed Arceus. But what happens when we have a speed stat that is high enough to skip the last step of speed calculation? Well, to do that, we would need a value less than 8,191 at that last step. Subtracting 8,191 from 10,000 would give us the required speed stat of 1,809. In fact, any speed value above 1,809 would produce this effect, and I'm guessing you can see where this is going. Barraskewda is about to get fast as boy. 1,809 may seem like an insane speed stat, but for this fish it's no problem. With a base speed of 136, the Swift Swim ability, and access to the move Agility, dude is basically like that episode of SpongeBob.
Wanna see me run to that mountain and back? You wanna see me do it again?
The setup is pretty simple. Lead with Barraskewda and Porygon. Man, Porygon's the coolest. Barraskewda uses Agility and Porygon sets up Trick Room. On turn 2, Barraskewda uses Agility again and Porygon burns a turn using Swift. Now watch closely here. In Trick Room, we see that Porygon moves before Barraskewda as we expect. Next, we switch out Porygon for Politoed to set up the rain using the Drizzle ability and start Barraskewda blasting. New game drink every time I say Barraskewda. You'll see Barraskewda now moves before all other Pokemon despite Trick Room being active. Honestly, given how easy it is to set this up, I'm kind of surprised that nobody's made a troll team with this yet. But I guess since you outspeed everything outside of Trick Room anyway, there's kind of no reason to use this. However, there is one niche way that I thought of that it could kind of make sense. Consider you're facing an opponent with a hard Trick Room team, so you lead with Barraskewda and Oranguru. And you have a feeling that the opponent is going to start off by using Trick Room and a non-damaging move like Reflect or Light Screen. You use Agility with Barraskewda and then instruct on Oranguru, making Barraskewda use Agility once more, giving you +4 speed on Barraskewda. On turn 2, you then switch Oranguru out for Politoed, which sets up the rain. At this point, Barraskewda would outspeed all Pokemon even in Trick Room. You could then fire off powerful boosted water type attacks into the opponent before they could respond. This doesn't really work in VGC though, because your level is capped to 50, which means that your speed would only be 1,236. Only. I kind of love that this is possible, and it makes me kind of want to make a team around this bug. And before people comment, yes, I know that this doesn't affect priority moves and your Thunderclap and Rage and whatever would KO me in one hit, but that's not really the point of diving into stuff like this. The whole point of dissecting game mechanics is to learn more about the foundation of how it functions, and that allows us to come up with more creative uses. Also so we can exploit the shit out of our favorite games for more resources and XP. And if you want to try this out for yourself, I have 2 rental teams here that you can set this up with a friend. If you like this video, you will definitely like my other video on breaking the damage equation. Make sure to sub if you enjoyed this video. That's all I've got for today. Okay, bye!